on Sharon. We're just waiting for Mrs. Hightower. Mr. Outling, are you on the phone?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you. So I need a motion to return from closed session.
Move that we return from closed session.
Moved by Mrs. Abuzawader,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Thurm. We will take a voice vote on this. Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells? Mrs. Johnson?
Yes, what?
I am a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
And Mrs. Hightower. Okay, we are now in open session. We will begin tonight's meeting with a moment of silence. Thank you. Mrs. Hightower, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to the first city council meeting with public attendance since March 2020. Yes. And it is nice to see people in the audience. Thank you. Tonight's meeting is a partial opening of the council chamber with a continued option to participate virtually. Due to the capacity restrictions, a limited number of residents are allowed inside the council chamber for specific items of interest. Following the conclusion of items or topic of discussion, residents will be asked to leave to allow room for other residents to enter the chamber. All attendees will be required to wear masks. Anyone who does not follow these guidelines will be asked to leave the council chamber. If needed, persons not following the mask requirements that do not leave voluntarily will be escorted for trespassing. And I certainly hope that that does not happen. And that's not my phrasing. Well, I believe that everybody should wear a mask or be vaccinated. We want people to be able to come and participate in our council meeting. In the interest of safety, the public forum and agenda item speakers must continue to register via the city's website. And I think we will do that moving forward because it gives us a better idea of how the agenda will flow. And it is also the procedure of most city councils throughout the state. Tonight, City Council will be implementing a new agenda management software system. Staff has prepared extensively for this transition, but council requests patience as changes can come with challenges. And we have had a training session on it, but it is a big difference from our old software. And that is a good thing because we saw how that software failed us in the last couple of months of the fiscal year. So we know that this will be a good package, but it's going to take a little getting used to. To comply with requirements by the state in regards to Zoom meetings and to provide an optimum experience for the public, council will verbalize motions and all votes will be conducted by roll call vote. Council will also implement an electronic voting method using the new eScribe agenda management platform. Each member of council must vote unless there is a direct conflict. We do allow and we welcome speakers to address council at the public forum meeting. Council respects the right for the public to speak about matters of concern that can be addressed by council. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Comments that seem to be intended to incite unlawful behavior will be deemed to be out of order. Zoom participants are requested to mute their microphones until they are called upon to speak. The City of Greensboro is committed to promoting an environment that is free of discrimination, bias, and bullying. Thus, harassment, words, jokes, actions, or comments based on an individual's sex, sexual preference, race, ethnic background, age, religion, physical condition, or other legally protected characteristic will not be tolerated. In order to be considered, written comments must be submitted online through the city's website, www.greensboro-nc.gov. We do have a consent agenda for items 1 through 9, which are a grouping of agenda items that are voted on with one single vote to expedite what are believed to be routine and non-controversial items. Any council member may withdraw an item from the consent agenda due to a conflict of interest or for the purpose of voting no. Items removed from the consent agenda for discussion will be placed on the July City Council business agenda. Lastly, this meeting does include closed captioning. Depending on the length of tonight's meeting, we may take a short recess around 7:30. This is the time for ceremonial or presentation items. Item number 1 is a resolution honoring the memory of the late Malachi Parsons Jr. Dr. Wells?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Resolution honoring the memory of the late Malachi Parsons Jr. Whereas on May 13, 2021, this community lost one of its outstanding community leaders with the passing of the late Malachi Parsons Jr. at the age of 71. Whereas Mr. Parsons, a native of Edenton, North Carolina, was born June 29, 1949. Graduated from D.F. Walker High School in Edenton in 1967 and graduated from North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, A&T, in 1972. Whereas upon graduation, Mr. Parsons joined the United States Marine Corps, serving as the first Black presidential support pilot for the Marine Helicopter Squadron based in Quantico, Virginia. As a Marine Helicopter Squadron responsible for the transportation of the President and Vice President of the United States, head of states, Department of Defense officials, and other significant officials as directed by the Marine Corps and White House Military Office. Whereas as mission commander and self-acclaimed as the highlight of his military career, Mr. Parsons held the responsibility for flying former President Ronald Reagan from June 1981 through July 1983. Whereas Mr. Parsons served additional assignments in the Marine Corps at Pensacola Naval Air Station, Florida, Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and an additional tour at the Quantico Military Base in Virginia. Whereas he served as a helicopter aircraft commander and nuclear officer, was featured on the cover of the May 1983 Marine Corps Gazette, a professional journal for the United States Marines, founded in 1916 as the Marine Corps Base Quantico, and served as the professional journal for the U.S. Marines. Whereas following many years of service to our country, Mr. Parsons retired from the Marine Corps in April of 1984. Whereas Mr. Parsons was a longtime supporter of the North Carolina A&T football and basketball programs, and was a dedicated fan of the Dallas Cowboys professional football team. Whereas the city of Greensboro wishes to express its sense of loss and sincere appreciation and gratitude for the many years of dedicated public service rendered by Malachi Parsons Jr. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that the City Council wishes to express a sense of loss and a feeling of respect and gratitude for the life of Malachi Parsons Jr. for his many years of dedicated public service. That a copy of this resolution shall be delivered to the family of the late Malachi Parsons as a symbol of the gratitude of the people of Greensboro. His legacy will be remembered for the outstanding contributions he made to the community.
Move the resolution.
Second.
So that it's been moved by Mrs. Johnson and seconded by Dr. Wells. So
Is there anyone here from his family?
we are looking for the vote screen.
Oh, we got a vote. Oh, the votes.
Well, as you mentioned, we're having difficulty.
The vote screen.
Where's the vote screen?
No, we have. I think so.
After one, that's
So it has been moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Dr. Wells. Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mayor Pro
Yes.
Tem? I'm a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. I believe that the family is here. Like to come? Would you have anything you'd like to say, or can we give you the resolution?
One pilot and a Nighthawk for the U.S. Marine Corps was one of his greatest honors. But beyond that, he was also a very loving and doting father. He was a man who prided himself on seeing a smile on other people's faces. And he never was one to tout his many accomplishments. So for him to be recognized today by the city and by everyone here, we truly appreciate that very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Parson and I are from the same hometown, and we graduated from the same high school. So I'm proud of Edenton, North Carolina, and the contribution he made to our country.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution honoring the memory of the late Patricia Whitsitt Fortune. Mrs. Hightower and Mrs. Johnson?
I think I'm going to start, right, Sharon? Are you going to start?
No, were you
Okay.
gonna start?
This
And
is
I-
a resolution honoring the memory of the late Patricia Whitsitt Fortune. Whereas on May 26, 2021, this community lost one of its outstanding community leaders with the passing of the late Patricia Whitsitt Fortune at the age of 82. Whereas a native of Greensboro, North Carolina, Ms. Fortune, affectionately referred to as Pat, was born March 9, 1939. Whereas her educational track led her from the Greensboro Public Schools to graduation from Emmanuel Lutheran College in Greensboro, which closed in 1961. She also studied at the historically Black North Carolina A&T Agricultural and Technical State University. Whereas Ms. Fortune, known as a tomboy and was proud of it, as attributed to being known as a strong Black woman and for her athletic skills. She met her husband on a boys softball team. They later served as role models and mentors and were referred to as Ma and Papa Fortune. Whereas with many creative and entrepreneurial talents, which included cooking, baking, and sewing, Ms. Fortune was also a self-described folk artist and a collector of Black history, antiques, and all things vintage. Whereas she launched Pat's Angels, a network for surviving life's difficulties and embracing joys taught in the Greensboro Cultural Center after school program, and expected only the best out of others. Whereas her civic involvement included the organization of the first Greensboro African American Bowling League in 1963, serving as an advocate of diversity in Greensboro and surrounding communities, being the founder of Ujamaa Merchants United, a triad nonprofit African-American entrepreneurial networking organization.
Okay, whereas Ms. Fortune launched the Winston-Salem Juneteenth celebrations, was appointed the North Carolina State Director for the National Association of Juneteenth Lineage, NAJL, which support Black-owned businesses, including community initiatives in the area of health, education, and economic development, and collaborated with Lula Briggs Galloway to create the guidelines for how to start a Juneteenth festival. Whereas Mrs. Fortune supported her community as a member of the Greensboro Club of the National Association of Negro Business and Professional Women Incorporated. She wrote and directed a play commemorating Juneteenth, a New Beginning, depicting the day that the last slaves in America were held in bondage on a plantation located in Galveston, Texas, and wrote other notable plays. Whereas the City Council wishes to express its sense of loss and its sincere appreciation and gratitude for the many years of dedicated public service rendered by Patricia Whitsitt Fortune, the outstanding contribution she has made to the community and the legacy she leaves. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that the City Council hereby expresses on behalf of the citizens of Greensboro a deep sense of loss and a feeling of respect and gratitude for the life of Patricia Whitsitt Fortune. That a copy of this resolution shall be delivered to the family of the late Patricia Whitsitt Fortune as a symbol of the gratitude of the people of Greensboro for her many contributions to this community. Move the item.
Second.
So I think it was moved by Mrs. Hightower and seconded by Mrs. Johnson,
Wells.
Dr. Wells. We will take a voice vote on this. Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower?
Yes,
Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. I do believe that we may have some family members on Zoom.
yes. I think they were scheduled to be here in person. However, their father fell ill. He was not able to make the trip now or to be here in person. So Angie, are they there? Because her daughter was instrumental in bringing to my attention Ms. Fortune is what she did for Juneteenth across the state. And so we honored her this past with our first Juneteenth celebration too, by commemorating our event to her honor and in her memory. And we'll do that moving forward for many years to come. So,
I
so-
remember, oh, I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. No, I was gonna say that what she did has been very inspiring and been going on for quite a while. So she made many contributions to our community. So I want to thank her family for bringing that to our attention. And it was very timely, unfortunately, that she didn't get to enjoy our first annual city-sponsored celebration.
Yes, she was a trailblazer.
Yes, very much so.
I remember working with her on a Juneteenth celebration many years ago. And I didn't know what Juneteenth was because it wasn't in none of my history. And she educated me, and I am appreciative for that, but I'm also appreciative for all of the things that she did for the city of Greensboro and across the state that were good for the citizens and creative and visionary. So I will miss Pat. She was a dynamic human being.
So I don't know if the family members are on the Zoom call.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
Great. If you could just give us your name and if possible, turn your camera on.
My name is Danae McKnight, Danae Fortune McKnight, and I'm here with my dad, Frank Edward Fortune. My brother, Terry Fortune, is also on the call.
I am on the call, but my video has not been enacted.
That's fine. If any of you would like to give some comments.
There he is.
Here it is. Thank you. On behalf of my mom, Patricia Wisick Fortune, and all of our family, we thank you for this recognition of her tireless efforts, not only to bring Juneteenth to Greensboro and surrounding communities, but also to be a positive influence to help make our community better through all of her many accomplishments.
She showed us the strength of the power of one to make a change wherever we are and whatever the circumstances. She was an overcomer who did so much with so little, as many of you have witnessed, and even in the face of adversity. She taught us all not only to be proud of who we are, but also to be accepting of others for who they are. She was a servant leader, always thinking about the people, and she was a role model for all of us in the true sense of the word. We are proud to receive this resolution in her honor, and we thank Ms. Sharon Hightower, the full council, and the city of Greensboro. And you can see my dad is here in his Juneteenth shirt. It's the one from 1996, the very first Juneteenth festival that she held in Greensboro.
That is great.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Wow, that is awesome. So thank you for sharing her life with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for this recognition. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the original copy will be mailed to you all. Okay, for you and your brother.
Okay.
Thank you.
And your dad. Definitely for your dad. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is that Sharon?
Item number 3 is a resolution honoring the memory of the late Calvin Frank Morrow Sr. Dr. Wells?
Resolution honoring the memory of the late Calvin Frank Morrow Sr. Whereas on April 11th, 2021, this community lost one of its outstanding community leaders with the passing of the late Calvin Frank Morrow Sr. at the age of 97, one day short of his 98th birthday. Whereas a native of Greensboro, North Carolina, Mr. Morrow was born on April the 12th, 1924. Whereas Mr. Morrow attended the Greensboro Public Schools, which later merged in 1991 with the Guilford County Schools in 1986. Whereas he did not get to complete his senior year at Dudley High School due to being recruited by the United States Navy to serve as a French horn player in the first all-minority Navy band, Unit 1, B1, during World War II. He served 3.5 years at the Chapel Hill Pre-Flight School and Naval Station, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and was honorably discharged by the Navy in 1945. Whereas following his military service, Mr. Morrow received a special permission by the principal of Dudley High School to attend the regular school year program, where he graduated in the class of 1946. Whereas Mr. Morrow furthered his educational pursuits at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, formerly A&T, North Carolina A&T College, with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration, a Master's of Science degree in Elementary Education, and received state certification in Elementary Administration. Whereas with a dedication to learning, he continued his studies at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and Duke University.
Whereas Mr. Morrow taught at Second Ward High School in Charlotte and at David Caldwell Elementary in Greensboro and served on the North Carolina A&T faculty. Whereas evaluated from the classroom to the level of school administration in Greensboro, he was appointed as the first principal of Pila Elementary School in Greensboro, followed by tenures at Murphy Traditional Academy, Claxton Elementary, and Lindley Elementary, then returned to Pila Elementary School, where he retired from Greensboro Public Schools. Whereas Mr. Morrow continued to make a name for himself and received a number of awards and honors after retirement within the community for his extensive service and educational leadership on the Guilford County Board of Health, the Greensboro School Excellence Fund, the Guilford County Public School Enrichment Fund, the Black Child Development Institute, the Young Men's Christian Association, the Boy Scouts of America, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the Senior Leadership, Senior Parents and Teachers Association, the Educational Association, the North Carolina Principals Association, and the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development. Whereas Mr. Morrow belonged to many organizations, including Kappa Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Whereas Mr. Morrow gave interviews and lectures on the historical significance of the United States Navy B-1 band and was honored by Triad Stage prior to the South Pacific production in 2017 for his participation in the Navy's first all-black band. Whereas for over 60 years, Mr. Morrow was a member of the Episcopal Church of the Redeemer in Greensboro and a member of the choir, and served several times on the vestry. Whereas the City Council wishes to express a sense of loss and sincere appreciation for the many years of dedicated public service rendered by Calvin Frank Marr Sr. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that the City Council wishes to express its condolence and offer its sincere appreciation and gratitude for Calvin Frank Marr Sr.'s many years of dedicated public service. His legacy will be remembered by the outstanding contributions he has made, and that a copy of this resolution will be delivered to the family of the late Calvin Frank Marr Sr. as a symbol of the gratitude of the people of Greensboro for his contributions to this community. Move the resolution.
We can do the vote now.
No, right at there.
Right here.
Yeah, click there. So we did that. Yep, moved by Mrs. Johnson. Mrs. Abizwaiter. It shows on my screen.
Still on. That's not right.
I'm not getting it yet.
Okay, it was, it shows that it's moved by Mrs. Johnson and it's seconded by Ms. Abuzwaiter, but we're going to go ahead and do a roll call vote again. Okay, let's try.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
But I don't have that screen.
Hit the vote. Hit vote here.
Okay.
Mr. Outling, are you able to vote remotely?
Yes, I am. I've done so. Thank you.
I've already voted.
So that carries 8-0, but we have to still do a voice vote according to the North Carolina General Assembly while we are in a hybrid meeting. Mrs. Hoffman, Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Abuzwaiter?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passed 8-1.
I just
Thank you.
wanted to say that my first time I met Mr. Morrow was at the Episcopal Church of the Holy of the Redeemer Episcopal Church. That was where I first went to church, and he sang in the choir. And his wife and I are distantly related, so he was always a role model. He was always carried himself in a distinguished manner and encouraged all of us to always do our best. He will be missed, but I really thank him for all that he has done to improve the quality of life in Greensboro.
And I'd
Thank
like
you.
to say that Mr. Morrow was an outstanding educator. When I came to Greensboro to work, I worked at Caldwell School, which is now Nettie Code Apartments. He was an 8th grade teacher. Then he became a principal. And I moved to the school where when we integrated, he was the principal of Murphy. And I went there and he was my principal. And then I went to Peeler and he was my principal. So, and then we traveled as consultants for Educator Training Center. So Mr. Marr and he had a great impact on my life, especially as an educator. And I really miss him. Last time I saw him, he was telling me how old he was. I couldn't believe it. So we're honoring a person who's given a lot to the boys and girls and educators in our city.
That is wonderful. I know that there were 2 members of his family who had signed up to speak via Zoom. Do we know if they're on?
They are not, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4 is a resolution celebrating the 90th birthday of Dorothy Kendall Kearns. I have a resolution, and when I'm through, Mrs. Johnson has a special presentation as well. Resolution celebrating the 90th birthday of Dorothy Kendall Kearns. Whereas Dorothy Kearns was born in High Point, North Carolina on June 27th, 1931, and has celebrated her 90th birthday on June 27th, 2021. Whereas as a member of the Guilford County Board of Education, GCBE, from 1972 through 2008, Mrs. Kearns helped develop various opportunities in Spanish immersion, visual performing and dramatic arts, math, sciences, technology, language arts, along with the Gateway Education Center development. Whereas on October 27, 2016, the GCSBE renamed the Academy at Central High Point, North Carolina, the Kearns Academy, in honor of Mrs. Kearns as a former school board member. Whereas on June 17th, 2021, the Guilford County Board of Commissioners adopted a Guilford County resolution in appreciation and admiration for her lifetime achievements and accomplishments, declaring June 27th, 2021 as Dorothy Kendall Kearns Day. Whereas over the years, Mrs. Kearns served as a member of many civic groups, including the League of Women Voters, where she chaired the Public Education Roundtable, publishing a white paper to align the Public School First NC, PSFNC, an organization supporting public schools through information, education, and engagement. Whereas Mrs. Kearns served in many capacities through her career, including GCBE Secretary, National Conference of Community and Justice, NCCJ Board Member, GCS Health Advisory Council, Planning Committee for the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, UNCG Education Building, Advisory Board of the UNCG School of Education, Counseling and Education Development Department, UNCG Board of Visitors, Greensboro and High Point Communities and Schools Advisory Board, New Garden Friends Meeting Finance and Stewardship Committee, Community Advisory Board for Kids Voting, Board for Stay Up While You're Out, an alternative to out-of-school suspension, Board of Directors of the League of Women Voters of the Piedmont Triad, LWVPT, Chair of the LWVPT Education Roundtable, PFNC Vice President, Farm Preservation Project of Guilford County Open Space Preserve at High Point, Acting Chair, Bennett College Planning Committee for Global Education Institute member, and many other community projects. Whereas Ms. Kearns received many prestigious awards, including the High Point Enterprise Citizen of the Year, Meniska Award for Outstanding Leadership, UNCG Holderness Weaver Award for Outstanding Service to Guilford County, Rosetta Baldwin Award titled Women Pioneers of the Triad, recognition from the LWVPT, proclamation by the GCBE for her tireless pursuit of justice, NCCJ Annual Brotherhood Sisterhood Citation Award, NCCJ Honoree of the Year Award, the United Way of High Point, Jack and Marcia Slane Child Advocate of the Year Award, the UNCG School of Education Distinguished Career Award, the Order of the Longleaf Pine, North Carolina's highest civilian award on behalf of Governor Michael Easley, as well as numerous other awards and recognitions. Whereas the City Council wishes to express its congratulations to Dorothy Kendall Kearns on the occasion of her 90th birthday. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that the City Council wishes to express its congratulations on her 90th birthday and her many years of outstanding public and community service contributions she has made to the community. A copy of this resolution shall be delivered to Dorothy Kendall Kearns as a symbol of the appreciation of the people of Greensboro for her many contributions to this community.
Move the item.
Second.
So it is moved by Ms. Abuzawader, seconded by Mrs. Johnson.
Yes. Yes.
Now, council, please vote. Has everybody voted? I know we're in suspense, right? But we know that passes 8-0. And for the record, Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Absolutely.
I am a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. I know that Mrs. Johnson has a special presentation as well.
This is a citation from Bennett College. I'm going to read the Psalms 91, but everywhere it says him, just think of her. Because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Psalms 91, 14-16. The Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Bennett College salutes Dorothy Kearns on the celebration of your 90th birthday. A caring heart, a healing voice, a loving touch, and a listening ear. Your commitment of service to the Bennett College Board of Trustees, a Vesper speaker, a recipient of the Crystal Bell and Distinguished Service Award, a longstanding advocate for the women's education, and other outstanding contributions of your time, talent, and treasure will serve as an example to all who know you. Your support will help secure the dreams of another Bennett Bell. And because of your belief in our mission, Bennett College will continue its legacy of educating young women to become change agents locally, statewide, nationally, and globally. Presented this day, the 27th day of June, 2021, by Susan E. Walsh, JD, President of Bennett College.
Hello, all of you young things out here. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. From Janet, that was lovely, unexpected. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. In many ways, I feel like I've almost come home tonight. For so many years, when I was, thankfully, in elective office, I spent most of my days here in Greensboro because, you know, that other city is not the county seat. And so I was here so much of the time. And I came to know so many of you. A few, like Tammy, I don't know as well, but I have certainly appreciated your service thus far to our, the city of Greensboro and our county. You know, you might think that when you've reached the pinnacle of 90 years, that could be a little bit of a depressing, sad thing. Instead, it has been glorious. People have been so wonderfully supportive, just great friends like those who drove me here tonight and who have been so wonderful in all the ways that friends can be. I cannot thank you enough. And it's very special to me to have you, the City Council of Greensboro, you know, that other city, make this accolade also. I appreciate it far more than I can say. And I thank you for the work you're doing for Greensboro and for the county of Guilford. We have a wonderful, wonderful place to live, and we need to keep it just as safe and secure and forward-moving as we possibly can. I thank all of you so very much for the time you've given me here and through the years. Good luck to all of you as you go about your work with ferocity all of these days. So many challenges, but you're certainly up to meeting those. Thank you very, very much. It was very unexpected from Bennett. I do appreciate it. I loved being on that board for a number of years.
You were great.
And thank you so much, all of you.
You know, Dot, I'm not sure that we've ever recognized somebody from that other city before. But I have to say, we have really built a good relationship with the city of High Point. And a lot of it has to do with trailblazers like you who set the standard. And we know that you never really looked at it as High Point and Greensboro, but as Guilford County, and that we are one Guilford.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for your decades of hard work and your ferocity. Thank you for everything that you do for the children of our community, for the education of our community, because we know that that is what drives hope forward.
Right.
So thank you so much for your legacy.
Thank you. Thanks so much, all of you, all good friends. Thank you.
I just want to say congratulations, Ms. Dot, on your 90th. I wish one day I can say I'll be at 90. But to say I've accomplished so much, I don't know if I would be able to say I've accomplished as much as you have at your young age of 90. But I want to tell you, thank you for your wisdom, sharing information with me throughout the years. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciated that.
You're so kind to say that. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, all of you.
And I guess I want to say that I really have enjoyed working with you over the years, still working with you with the round table, but she's.
Goldie and I are still working side by side.
Still working side by side. She's a
Right,
bridge
thank you.
builder,
Thank you all.
pulling folk together, and.
You're all
she's-
great public
yes.
officials. I
Thanks, Doc.
appreciate you.
And Dot, over the years, I've gotten to know you, and I've always admired the way that you just go into a room and everybody, you can feel the love for Dot Kearns because everybody knows you. I've seen all of your hard work, working with the League of Women Voters, all of the other things over the years. You've just really, I'm someone you admire. I admire. You are someone I admire. Let me get that right. Someone I
I hear
admire.
that coming from you, the hard worker that you are. That means a
No, but
lot.
I've admired you over the years and I've watched all of the things you've done and hope I can be like Dot someday. So, it's just really, really wonderful to be able
Thank
to
you.
know you and see all of the wonderful things you have done. So
Thank you. I look forward to getting to know Tammy.
Dot, you've been the wind beneath so many people's wings, especially young people and especially young women. I just want to thank you for all of your service, your commitment, your love for people. And I just hope I can be a little bit more like you every day. God bless you.
I cannot imagine life without knowing Yvonne Johnson and her family, her husband also, who was a great member of the Board of Education too. Thank you all very, very much. Have a great week.
Sharon, we will come and celebrate you at 90, and I will be your younger sister of 89. We'll come into the chambers and celebrate your birthday.
All right, we'll plan that party now.
Yes,
But
we
let's
will.
don't put any candles on the cake.
Yep. Item number 5 is a resolution of appreciation and recognition of the Eastern Music Festival. Mrs. Hoffman?
Thank you very much. Whereas Eastern Music Festival, which we most frequently refer to as EMF, was established in Greensboro, North Carolina in 1961 by Greensboro native and music educator Sheldon Morgenstern on the campus of Guilford College. Whereas throughout its 6 decades, EMS has focused on musical excellence in education, performance, and execution, and has developed a national and global reputation as an important training ground for aspiring young performing artists to experience music and concert programming. Whereas hundreds of students from across the United States and around the world visit North Carolina every summer to study with internationally acclaimed musicians and artists. Whereas EMF produces 65 performances and events each summer across the triad, fostering professional collaboration, innovation, access, and diversity. Whereas EMF boasts over 9,000 alumni, including acclaimed professional musicians majoring in performing in major national and international orchestras and working professional in other fields. Whereas EMF contributes to the local and state economy to bring business, revenue, and an educated workforce to the state and raise awareness about the vitality of the arts in our state. Whereas for 60 years, EMF has played a role in our community by actively enhancing the quality of life in the Piedmont and throughout the state. The rich musical heritage that is the hallmark of EMF offers a cultural centerpiece for North Carolina. Whereas known as North Carolina's musical treasure, EMF is an acclaimed artistic institution exemplifying a long-standing and prestigious part of the fabric of the greater North Carolina community. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that the City Council wishes to express its appreciation and recognize the Eastern Music Festival for 60 years of musical contributions to the community. That the City Council expresses its support for the Eastern Music Festival for the musical talents shared with the City of Greensboro, the state of North Carolina, and the world, adopted this the 13th day of July, 2021.
Move
Move
the
the
item.
resolution.
I hit the button.
So it has been
I hit
moved.
it too, didn't none come up.
Well,
Well, that's just me and you move.
okay, so it is jointly moved by Mrs. Busewader and Mrs. Johnson and secondedly by Mrs. Thurm. So if we can vote.
We have, Chris Williams is here, I think, in the audience, and he is the executive director of EMF. So Chris, would you just, I'd like to give you the proclamation, and if you'd like to, we welcome, EMF was virtual like so many other activities last year, but we are live on Guilford College again, the Guilford College campus again this year.
So we do need to take a vote. Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Busewader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
And Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. Oh, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
No, great.
I was trying to let the city clerk know that the voting thing seems to be a little frozen up, but I apologize.
Oh, well,
Go
thank
right
you.
ahead.
Thank you very, very much for the kind words and the support that you all have shown Eastern Music Festival over the past 60 years and through this most trying of 18 months. But we are in business. producing live music for the citizens of Greensboro right now. In fact, our next performance begins in about 90 minutes. You can end this meeting quickly and rush right over for beautiful chamber music. I'm joined tonight by Melanie Tuttle, our board president, and by Deontay McNeil, a graduate student at Colorado State who is here studying arts administration with us this summer. He's a percussionist originally from Dayton, Ohio. Deontay is one of those 9,000 alumni of Eastern Music Festival. We are so fortunate to be part of this community and to be creating art and music. And we're thankful. We're very, very thankful. Thanks.
I just want to echo what Chris said. I've lived in Greensboro for over 20 years now, and Eastern Music Festival truly is a gem in our midst, and we do appreciate all the support we receive from the community. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I just want to say I appreciate you holding on with us through some technical difficulties and through some educational challenges, but we will get through this and it'll be great as we move forward. Item number 6 is a resolution recognizing the North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University track and field team for their achievements in the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA Division I 2021 Outdoor Track and Field Championships. This will be read jointly by Mrs. Hightower and Mrs. Johnson.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna read the first two. Okay, all right. Resolution recognizing the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University Track and Field Team for their achievements in the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA Division I 2021 Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Whereas on June 12, 2021, the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, NCA&T Track and Field men's and women's team placed 3rd and 4th places respectively at the 2021 Division National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, Outdoor Track and Field Championships at the University of Oregon. Whereas led by head coach Dwayne Ross and assistant coaches Tempe Vance, Ernest Barrett, Amber Monroe, and Bill Dunn, and representing the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, MEAC, and historically Black universities, HBU, several members of the men's and women's team earned notable wins in various meets, set collegiate history, and broke world records.
Whereas 4 North Carolina A&T track athletes qualified to try out for the United States of America Olympic trials, and 2 members qualified to represent the USA in the 2021 Summer Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. Whereas the City Council wishes to extend their congratulations to the NCA&T men and women's teams for their participation and wins in the 2021 NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, along with the selection of athletes eligible and those who have qualified to try out for the 2021 Tokyo Olympics and to participate in the Olympics. And now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Greensboro that it hereby recognizes the North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University Track and Field men and women's teams for their success in the 2021 NCAA Outdoor Track and Field events, for participation in the 2021 Tokyo Olympics, and for representing North Carolina A&T and the City of Greensboro and the state of North Carolina with their accomplishments.
Move the item. Move the item.
Okay, council, please vote.
Getting it.
For the record, Mrs. Hoffman, Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Abusawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
And Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0.
Aggie Pride.
Do we have, Mayor, do we have members on?
So we did have some people signed up on the Zoom. Are they in the queue?
Yes, ma'am. I have 3 that are on Zoom and I'm sorry, 4 on Zoom and 1 that is in person.
Oh, okay. Well, tell the one in person to
The
come on up.
person, Brian Holloway. And on Zoom, we have Dwayne Ross, Randolph Ross, Cambria Sturgis, and Tempest Vance.
Runners, great runners.
Right. We have runners and coach and assistant coach. Mr. Holloway, we have a resolution for you in person, but you certainly go ahead. I'll bring it to you.
On behalf of the Chancellor Harold L. Martin and Athletics Director Earl Hilton, we are very thankful for this resolution. Our track and field team has done an outstanding job of representing not only HBCUs, but the entire country. And we are hoping that we can also bring back to Greensboro some gold medals as well. Randolph Ross Jr. Will be competing there. Trevor Stewart will also compete there. And then we have Akeem Sirleaf and Daniel Stokes who will be competing for their respective countries. And so Dwayne Ross has done an outstanding job and he will continue to do an outstanding job for North Carolina A&T State University. Thank you.
So if we have anyone on Zoom, speakers signed up, if there's anything you would like to say, and we would like to say congratulations on a tremendous season.
Thank you so much. This is Coach Ross, head coach. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Randolph Ross. I would just like to say thank you as well. And we wouldn't be able without all the support.
Thank you.
This is Cambria Sturgis, and I just want to say thank you and for the recognition.
Girl, you can run. You hear me?
Thank you.
Does everybody know your name now? All right. Can I get an Aggie Pride?
Aggie Pride. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this item? Well, I just want to say thank you for being on the Zoom call. You really made us proud. It is great to see North Carolina A&T in national and worldwide headlines. So this is great. Thank you. Item number 7 is a resolution establishing an open and nonpartisan procedure for the 2021 Greensboro City Council redistricting. Mrs. Thurm?
Whereas state statutes require that the Greensboro City Council redraw council districts to reflect the current population following the decennial census, such that each district has approximately equal population. Whereas city redistricting plans enacted pursuant to this procedure will be used to elect members of the Greensboro City Council throughout the coming decade. Whereas an open, participatory, and transparent process whereby broad citizen input is actively sought and given full consideration in the redrawing of the Greensboro City Council districts more fully reflects the commitment of the council to represent the will of the vote. Whereas in order to achieve the aim of fairly representing the citizens of our city, the boundaries of Greensboro City Council districts should be drawn respecting and taking into consideration the integrity of our city's neighborhoods and communities of interest. Whereas important principles, including the protection of the Federal Voting Rights Act and respect for neighborhoods, towns, and cities should be built into any redistricting process so that our communities are kept together and can achieve effective representation. Whereas the citizens of the city of Greensboro deserve a fair, fully transparent, impartial, and depoliticized process for the drawing of Greensboro City Council districts reflecting their communities and providing accountability to the voters. Whereas such a process should facilitate public input and involvement in the redistricting process to empower our citizens and to ensure maps that enable them to elect representatives who will reflect and respond to their interests on issues important to their lives. Whereas voters are more likely to participate when they feel that their vote will count and that they have a fair chance of electing candidates who represent their interests. Whereas the members of the Greensboro City Council are strongly committed to increasing accountability to the voters and serving their best interests. Whereas these aims are best achieved by adopting an open and transparent redistricting process that includes firm timelines announced well in advance, prompt communication of draft plans, including through posting on an accessible website and publication in local news outlets, well-promoted public hearings on the maps, and citizens' access to redistricting tools so that our citizens have real opportunities to review and assess the maps and to provide feedback proposing improvements before maps are finalized. Whereas the provision of software and other assistance will facilitate public participation and enable our citizens to draw and submit maps for Greensboro City Council consideration. Whereas redistricting to protect individual incumbents, parties, or other political interests is improper and prejudicial to the citizens' desire for responsive government. And now therefore be it resolved that the Greensboro City Council reaffirms its commitment to establishing a redistricting process that will adhere to the principles set out above and support citizen involvement in an open and transparent procedure throughout the upcoming 2021 redistricting process. Be it further resolved that the process adopted should be one that promotes greater accountability and transparency and prohibits the consideration of voting patterns, party registration information, and incumbents' residential addresses, and that uses demographic information only to the extent necessary to ensure minority participation traditionally indicated by the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Be it further resolved that this resolution should be announced publicly as a testament to the Greensboro City Council's commitment to incorporate the principles outlined within this resolution into our 2021 redistricting procedures and to implement such procedures so as to ensure adherence to the above principles. And be it further resolved that the Greensboro City Council also hereby formally requests the North Carolina General Assembly to adopt procedures for the 2021 legislative and congressional redistricting embodying the same principles, processes, and measures as outlined above, thereby securing our citizens' rights to participate in said redistricting on the basis of equity, nonpartisanship, fairness, and transparency. Adopted this the 13th day of July, 2021.
I have a quick question. And Mr. City Attorney, I heard Ms. Thurm change some verbiage because as required by the Voting Rights Act, there's now some changes there. So how she changed it says as traditionally, does that still limit us? Does that impact this resolution, just based their resolution of support? But I want people just using it for what they think is the guide to go by, especially with the Voting Rights Act and Section 5 being removed, even though Section 2 still applies.
Well, I guess the point is that the 1965 Civil Rights Act, which has been adopted almost unanimously by the Congress over the years, isn't what it used to be now that the Supreme Court has addressed it with respect to Section 5 and now also Section 2. And so the words there regarding traditionally, I think, brings it back to the original intention, which I think is what the broader document would have in mind.
I just want to make sure that for the public too, to understand what the implications are.
I mean, this said really to the extent required by, and now that that has been changed by interpretation of the Supreme Court, some things that people probably would expect to use it for might be left out.
Right, right.
So therefore, making reference to its traditional use, I think gets you around that point.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, and so that'll be corrected, ma'am. Yeah, because that's why I wanted to make sure you had seen this first before we.
I saw this first, but of course, the Supreme Court's decision, most recent decision came down after I saw it.
Okay.
So that has been moved by Dr. Wells, seconded by Ms. Abuzawader. Let's see if the vote screen. While we're waiting for that, Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells? Yes. Mrs.
Yes.
Johnson? I am a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower?
Yes.
And Mr. Outling?
Yes.
So that passes 8-0. I do want to recognize before we move on to our city council speakers from the floor, if you'll notice that we all have on these shirts this evening, it is in recognition of the Greensboro Parks and Recreation Department. I think last month we did a resolution recognizing that July is Parks and Recreation Month. And certainly we know how important Parks and Rec are every day, but especially during the pandemic, that it was great that people had an opportunity to get outside and be healthy. And during the whole time, Parks and Recreation, Library, and many of our other departments was doing great online programming. And in October, our Parks and Recreation Department was awarded the gold medal from the National Recreation and Parks Association, and that was our 4th time. So we have, like our many departments, we have an outstanding Parks and Recreation Department, and today we are celebrating it in our Parks and Rec shirts. Otherwise, we're not so neatly coordinated. So we are going to move on to the public comment. We received one comment from Helen Tilley for this July 13th, 2021 meeting regarding the Green Hill Cemetery and maintenance issues. It will be posted to the city's website tomorrow. We currently have 16 speakers for the public forum. Speakers will be given 3 minutes. And our first 2 speakers are actually our first 3 speakers are on Zoom. Cherubin Hurdle, Ramon Johnson, and Brendan Wayans.
Only Roman Johnson is on. The other 2 are not on as of yet.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Mr. Johnson is the only one that is on. The other 2 are not.
Okay, Mr. Ramon Johnson?
Hey, how you doing? Thank you, council, for hearing me, and good evening.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here based off speaking on a step plan. And just want to thank you guys for bringing this to the table. I just wanted to reinforce some things about how good a step plan was. In 2019, the average merit raises for crew members was 1.8, and for superintendents were 4.3. Also, a merit raise doesn't mean that every employee in the city will get a 3% increase of pay. Each manager has sole discretion in an actual increase given to their employees, as long as the total amount allocated does not exceed the merit pool of funds allocated for that department. And just to reinforce guys that have been not getting good merit raises for years and have been actually held up for years from actually meeting that control point. We have a lot of guys in that situation. We have properties being annexed all through the city. You have guys working harder than they ever have. You have guys working on water, sewer, and trash, providing that to all medical facilities, all facilities all over the city. I think that's a good point, and I just want to thank you guys for bringing that to the table. Also, the city is Greensboro is one of the is the lowest, has the lowest paid workers in the city of North Carolina out of the 4 largest cities. A lot of people that have been getting merit raises for all these years are still stuck at the bottom of their pay scale. Also, police and fire have a step plan. We want that to be considered. Looking forward into the future. Guys want to be able to plan ahead. Guys want to see where they're at financially and be able to support their families and their loved ones. And I thank you guys for letting me speak on this. I'm gonna forward over to Brendan, and thank you guys.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brendan Parmenter Winans. I've lived here in Greensboro for a little over 10 years. I've been an employee with the city for about 3. I wanted to thank you for starting the process of getting the STEP plan implemented. It means a lot to me and to many of my coworkers to have that safety and stability. I know you've just taken the first step, and I appreciate that that step is the lowest paid workers, and moving up from there. It's important to see that that's where your priorities are, and I want to express my gratitude for that. I do believe that we need to put more money into the STEP plan to make it fully equitable, and to help address some of the systemic problems that I'm sure you're aware are in pay scales where the bosses get to choose who gets the raises and who doesn't. Thank you for your time and have a good evening.
Thank you. Our next 2 speakers are Gregory Walker and Bianya Amos. I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Mr. Walker? Okay. Ms. Amos? Okay, James Rosa.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. I am James Rosa Jr. I live at 146. I can't remember my address now. I know, right?
We can find you.
Ashbourne Trace. I am the co-founder, executive director of the Rosa Foundation here in Greensboro. We are a nonprofit organization, and we're here to invite you to our first Latin Festival, Vente Vente Latin Festival, September 18th at Barber Park. We are asking people to come out and support Hispanic Heritage Month. And also, we're also doing this in recognition of the people that we had lost last year due to COVID, because originally we was going to do our festival last year. And Vente Vente means 2020, and we kept the name for those reasons. We are looking for sponsorship. We are looking for food vendors and merchandise vendors. They can reach us at Rosa Foundation at outlook.com, or my phone number is 336-772-0074. And correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this will be the largest Latin festival that Greensboro has had. And I am proud that Rosa Foundation be the one that's doing the first one. And we're hoping to do this every year. It's a free event, but we will be selling food and merchandise. There'll be some other activities going on. And again, we would like for you guys to come down and participate in this. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Russell Brereton? Okay. While we're waiting, Cecilia Shaw?
Good evening, Mayor Vaughn and respected members of the City Council and guests. I come before you as a 46-year resident of the city, a 30-year retired Gifford County Public School teacher, an active G53 precinct member, a political volunteer, and a registered voter. I wear many other hats, but this evening, I want the focus to be on my concerns about the direction my neighborhood in Southeast Greensboro and District 1 are headed. Over the past 2 months, I have gone from helping to verbally protest the rezoning of for sale properties that would become multifamily housing units to being a neighborhood canvasser, letting my neighbors know what plans are happening, to becoming a watchdog, looking for visible signs of property deterioration, code violations, locating new rezoning signs, poor business practices, intentionally observing city services, reading crime reports, to communicating with Scott Farmer at the North Carolina House of Finance Agency. But before I say anything else, I want to publicly thank the 5 of you who voted back on May 11th to revisit the rezoning request of a property on East Vandalia and South M. Eugene Street that was to become another multi-affordable housing complex. That addition would have surely added additional stress on an already congested area. You see, we already house 32 multifamily complexes within our southeast boundaries. And yet on this very day, we are watching additional ones going up, including a 9-acre complex just 1 mile away. Of these 32 complexes, it appears that 50% accept some form of city, state, or federal subsidies. We get it, folks. Everybody needs and deserves to live in decent housing, but your continued approval of these developments in our district has resulted in oversaturation. And with this overload, crime is up. City service departments can't keep up, and our neighborhoods have become stranger walkthroughs, noisy streets, speeding automobile cut-throughs, and unsafe at times. I stand before you asking you, please investigate with greater scrutiny any plans to build, requests to open new businesses, or rezoning of property in District 1 before any approval is given or even sent on to NCHFA. We know that there's a lot of work to be done, and we stand with you when you have listened and we have been given the opportunity to be heard. We are strong voting precincts, and we will support you when we know that equity for us is the same as it is for the whole city. As the late Congressman John Lewis said,
Thank you, Mrs. Shaw.
if you see something that is not right and not fair, not just, do something about it. And if not us, then who?
Thank
And
you.
if
I'm gonna
not
have to
now,
ask you to
then
wrap up.
when? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Thank you so much.
Russell. No, Brereton, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Russell Brereton. We are here on behalf of a nonprofit that we just started. My sister is a little better at this than I am. So I'm gonna let her explain and then I fill in whatever.
Hello, council. Thank you for having us. My name is Latasha. I am Russell's sister. He's the chairman and founder of We Got You. It is a nonprofit organization that focuses on at-risk youth, trying to get our children into different environments so that their circumstances can change. We've had a lot of crime recently. Our younger children are really being affected. And what this organization is about is bringing them together. We are doing a event September 18th at Windsor Recreation Center at 1601 Eastgate City Boulevard in Greensboro. We welcome those who want to come out and have information. We don't want any vendors or anything, but information that brings awareness to like COVID-19 to our area. We're willing to open tables up for that. Greensboro Urban Ministry will be there as well, handing out some information. There'll also be a 3-on-3 basketball tournament for the children. And if anybody has any resources, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can do that at rusbre5403@gmail.com. That is Russell's email address. Any help would be greatly appreciated. We will be feeding the children that day, allowing them to swim in the swimming pool as well. And we'll have more information about it. We are going to be doing some fundraising as well to help put the event on and bring families together for that day. We've all been stuck in the house. The children have as well. This is just something positive for once to bring to our community. And it's something that was led to our hearts to do. I don't know if you have.
What is the name? What's the name of your organization?
Well, the nonprofit is called We Got You. But it's We Got You.
We got you.
Yes.
Okay, we got you. Okay.
What is the date?
We got.
September 18th. It's from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
It's actually the same date as the gentleman that just was
That
at.
just is speaking.
So come there early and then go on over to.
There you go.
Barbara.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's at Windsor Recreation Center.
And just to say one last thing, pretty much our organization is also bridging the gaps because we saw a lot of disconnect, just not in our area, but in the country as a whole. And we are the ones that's pretty much, you could look at us as like mediators. You know, we don't mind being the one in between to be able to translate certain things, just so people get more understanding exactly what's needed to be done and how to go about doing it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Slowly.
336-210-5108. Yes, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Got you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Our next speaker, I believe, is on Zoom, Helen Hoffman.
She has not signed in, Mayor.
She's not on. Hester Petty. Also on Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Hester Petty, 3402 Canterbury Street here in Greensboro. The police did nothing wrong when they hogtied Marcus Smith. I've heard this sentiment from you, Mr. Outling, and from two police chiefs, both former Chief Scott and current Chief James, neither of whom found any fault with the officers present when Marcus was killed. But the Greensboro police did do something wrong, and that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. In 1995, a program within the U.S. Department of Justice called the National Law Enforcement Technology Center issued a bulletin to law enforcement communities entitled Positional Asphyxia, Sudden Death. The bulletin covered variables known to be associated with sudden in-custody deaths while subjects were detained by restraints. These include cocaine-induced bizarre or frenzied behavior, drug or alcohol intoxication, violent struggle, or subject unresponsiveness. Predisposition to positional asphyxia included factors such as obesity, alcohol, drug abuse, and enlarged heart. This bulletin offered this guideline to law enforcement. Quote, where possible, avoid the use of maximally prone restraint techniques, for example, hog tying. The bulletin went on to state, as soon as the suspect is handcuffed, get him off his stomach. Pay attention to breathing difficulties or loss of consciousness. The bulletin concluded with this, and I quote, to help minimize the risk of positional asphyxia, diligent observation and monitoring of subjects displaying any one or a combination of the described indicators are procedurally warranted. Furthermore, the use of maximal prone restraint techniques should be avoided. This is 1995. If prone positioning is required, subjects should be closely and continuously monitored. Marcus Smith was afforded none of these precautions that are in this bulletin, nor those in the GPD directives or training protocol. Because of the actions and inactions of 8 Greensboro police officers, Marcus died. The officers knew he was high, knew he was sweating and overexerted. They did not monitor his ability to breathe after he was face down on the pavement. They did not roll Marcus on his side after he was handcuffed. They did not roll Marcus on his side after they finished hobbling him. As a matter of fact, they did not roll Marcus on his side until they stood up, noticed he wasn't breathing, and didn't have a pulse. Only then, when it was too late, did the officers pay any attention to Marcus at all. This was a wrongful death. Please settle the lawsuit.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Catherine Holcomb. Is Ms. Holcomb on Zoom? Yes.
I'm sorry I can't be seen like Hester was previous to me. Anyway, I'm Catherine Holcomb. I live at 1911 Rosecrest Drive in the Justin Outling District. I have spoken before on Marcus Smith, and I'm speaking again. I told you that I, as a middle-aged white woman, was stopped by police after a traffic accident, and he used excessive force, shouting at me, shoving my head, and not allowing me to ask any questions, and turning his music up in the patrol car as loud as he could. He drove me downtown, and then I watched Black men in the station where you're arrested be treated even worse than I was by other police officers. It unnerved me. And then when I watched the video of Marcus Smith being killed by police, I really have a negative view of the police department. However, during Zoom, our public library and our police department, and the History Museum have sponsored some Zooms on the community and our police. And I learned a lot from this, so I feel a little bit hopeful now. There was a police officer, a professor of law, and a local attorney giving their very honest sessions, their opinions about how policing happens in Greensboro as other places. And they were open to any questions we wanted to ask them. Their honesty was downright refreshing. I learned that as much as I've been talking about excessive force in Greensboro, there's nothing really to be done because the Supreme Court upheld since 1967 a qualified immunity for people in government. And so
no one ever told me that. I never learned it. And we were urged on that call to fight that it really is a pathetic ruling that they did in 1967 and has not yet been changed. Also, I learned that our police department are aware of being mistrusted and even hated by the community. And they have taken several
seconds.
I want to know if you listen, the policeman said they listen to what other cities are doing to get ideas. And I wonder if you are. I want you to be a city of government officials like Jacksonville, North Carolina, Newark, Austin, and Camden, where the people put their hearts together, the police, the city council, and they make new ways of making community inspired.
Thank you, Mrs. Holcomb. Our next speaker is Ben Holder, but I don't believe he is in the room. Courtney Hughes.
How y'all doing?
Good.
I'm doing well. Well, this is my first time attending a meeting. My name is Courtney Hughes, also known as DJ Lady South. And so all month long, I've been just trying to figure out what to say. But I figured out that I just wanted to be the change I wanted to see. I just wanted to speak tonight about the youth crime, youth activities, youth violence, and just crime rate in general. So personally, I just think that, like I said, just being the change that I want to see, first of all, when I came into the room tonight, not seeing anybody really my age, not seeing anyone that I actually knew, but people that I can look up to and admire for the work that y'all have done this far. And by me being a very, very, how would I put the words? I'm gonna say a leader in the community for everyone. A lot of people look up to me and look at what I do and say, oh, I want to be like her. I like what she does. So I didn't know it was this easy. I didn't know what a city council meeting was. I didn't even know who most of y'all was. So just by coming tonight, I wanted to let the youth know that it's okay to be cool in this manner. Just because you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram and those things to that nature, it don't necessarily make you cool. So just them knowing that I came tonight and representing for the community that I'm in or the world, I just wanted to understand and let people know it's really nothing we can do to stop crime. We can maybe minimize it, add more activities in our parks, or just sometimes you have to maybe not pay people to do things that you think should be done for each other, but people that have to have a love for the things that they're doing. Because I was actually, like the 500 kids, 500 jobs y'all did not too long ago, I haven't heard no more about it. But my opinion is that maybe weekly it should be announced, because just because you did an event once, now it's to some people it's like, well, where can I locate it? Where can I find it? What's going on? I did have a friend, Ivy, she was the speaker at that event. I wasn't upset about her being chosen to be the speaker, but what happened to me more was like, well, she get paid to do that work. I do this from the kindness of my heart. My organizations I've been working with since a child, I'm 32 years old. YTPT, Yes Teens Do Positive Things. Sometimes I feel like shedding positivity over what you do is better than always speaking on the negativity of what's been done. I know yesterday, just to speak on, I met 5 little young girls in the street running around playing ding dong ditch. Now we speak on crime, but see, they could have easily been shot just because they put it on someone else's door. But I went to go speak to them. They could all jump me, even though they're all little kids. But the way crazy crime is these days, you don't know, you can't discriminate, or you can't put a face on crime. So I just honestly wanted to come and be an example. And I'll come more often so I can say more, my time is up. But I just want to be an example. That's why I came tonight. Because they look at you all and think that that's an example. But just being an example they can relate to as well is special.
Thank you. Well, we hope we'll see you again. Thank you.
Did you do the artwork?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay, good.
So did you leave your we have your contact?
I mean, you can have it. This is my first time. I didn't know what to do. I prayed about it all
Well,
month.
yeah, I think it's great that you came. You have to be bold.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, we got a creative arts that we work with. We need to
Yes,
Did you
ma'am. I'm a-
cook the, connected in?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
All right, well, I'll see y'all soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tuck.
Good evening, ladies, Mayor. So good to see you. And community representatives. First of all, I want to thank you for what you do. Secondly, I want to apologize to the family of especially the young lady that was murdered at that store at Speedway. As the African-American male, I want to apologize to the community for the behavior of the African-American young men that's going around with these guns acting crazy. My opportunity for youth is an organization that mentors African-American men and those that are locked behind prison, and we give them a second chance through athletics, sports. I coached the youth flag football team. I asked them 5 things they like to do. And the 2 priorities was they love their family, they love football, and they love music. So we decided to start an initiative. September the 9th, we're gonna start the Gate City Spiritual Travelers Boys Choir.
Gate City Spiritual Travelers.
Travelers Boys Choir. And it's going to be at 5:45 at the Cultural Arts Center. We're asking for all the youth to come who want to learn how to sing. I'm not going to teach them how to rap. I want to thank council for canceling that event at the Coliseum of bringing these rappers that use foul language and disrespect women, because the music and the hip hop culture has practically destroyed the African-American community. I like to DJ, but I DJ myself. One thing that I like DJs to do at the end of their set is to play some love music. Something soft, something to calm the crowd down instead of hyping the crowd up and sending them out in the street. Another thing, Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec, I've been swimming at the Lindley Pool for the last 5 years, with the exception of last year, and the bathrooms haven't been painted yet. We went to Windsor Recreation Center. We tried to establish street basketball league for the troubled youth ages 15 to 25. I have yet received a call. This was back in May. A couple of us athletes decided to get together and start a league. Also, we want to thank A&T.
Thank you, Mr. Tuck.
A&T sponsors and help youth. But one day we hope that A&T decide to purchase Palmer Institute, because
Thank you.
Palmer Institute was for education of youth.
Thank you.
So can I ask you though, Ron, what did you say about Lindley Center? I
The
didn't-
bathrooms at the Lindsay swimming pool haven't been painted in 5 years.
The
Lindley.
Lindley.
The big pool.
You don't know where Lindley
That
swimming
just-
pool
I
is?
mean, that just should have been fixed recently because finally.
Not
Then the
just
pool-
fixed, it
then the
should-
pool reopened because the kids.
The pool reopened, it was a mechanical issue. I'm not aware of painting. I'd have to check into that.
All you gotta do is go into the shower,
Okay.
chip paint all everywhere.
Okay,
And I believe it could be lead paint.
Thank you.
all right.
I want to make sure that all of the people in the gallery who are here to speak as a speaker from the floor on a non-agenda item, that you've been called, or this is your chance to speak. I know we have 2 more on Zoom. Okay. Our next speaker is Keith Peterson, and that will be followed by Louis Pitts. And that should be the end of the speakers from the floor. Mr. Peterson?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you put your camera on? Thank you.
Yes. How you doing? Good afternoon, council members. My name is Keith Peterson. I'm the president of the Association of Woodley in Southeast Greensboro, and I'm also a member of the newly formed Southeast Greensboro Coalition. I have one pressing item along with my neighbors is the crime along the Randaman Road corridor. I have some data here from the Guilford County Metro 911. And in the last 2.5 to 3 years, 1,568 calls went out to 3 primary areas. The first area is 2920 Randaman Road. And within 500 feet of these businesses, the Plasma Center. These crimes consisted of anywhere from burglary to domestic disputes to robbery, narcotics, arson, indecent exposure, auto theft, and fraud. Some of those crimes can be classified as Class 1 felonies, meaning they're serious crimes. The Cavalier Inn, 312 West JJ Drive, received over 717 calls from January 1, 2018 to 12/31/2020. These crimes also were narcotics, threat of suicide, disorderly conduct, domestic disputes, fraud, some vice arrests there, discharging of firearms, and several other countless Class 1 felonies as well. Food Lion and businesses within 500 feet of Food Lion at 3228 Randaman Road. The same manner of calls in that area. So the Randaman Road corridor from JJ Drive south to Food Line is constantly, calls for service are constantly rising and rising. And these crimes, like I said, some are Class 1 felonies, and those are the more serious crimes. And so the residents in my neighborhood, and I'm sure surrounding areas, is looking for a more strategic plan in reducing these crimes. I understand that city services may be strained, especially in the police department.
30 seconds.
But we need you guys' help in reducing crime in these areas. God bless you.
Thank you. I would like some information on the Plasma Center, especially, which I think was the 2920 Randleman Road, Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
You know, we have gotten quite a few complaints, and that center hasn't really lived up to what they said they were going to bring to the community. I'd like to know kind of a report out, especially of what types of calls for service we have there and what we could do to tighten up that, as well as the other areas that he mentioned. But
well, it's not just what I'm planning a tour of that area. Donna Gray and I are planning that of the entire Randaman Road area, period, because the shopping centers are concerned, as well as some of the other areas. I think you heard the speaker tonight talk about the saturation of the apartments. It affects the property values. These are old established neighborhoods. So we are planning that. Code enforcement, I've asked code enforcement. I've talked to Don, I forget, neighborhood development, as well as I will be reaching out to some of these neighborhood leaders to accompany us there to point these things out. We did a Randaman Road corridor study. And really, to be honest, we do a lot of studies and they stagnate and they sit and we don't implement. Now, some of it is, I understand, money, and because of some things we can. And that has been problematic for Randaman Road area, Elm Eugene area, all of that together. So if council members are interested in attending, we're looking at the date of August 10th or 12th, I believe, to do that. And so Donna Gray and I are pulling that together. So
let us know when you get that firmed up. But in the meantime, I would like, especially the numbers to the plasma centers, but the other ones that he mentioned as well, because, you know,
Food line.
we've,
Yeah, I can forward you the email, the spreadsheet on the data that came from the Metro, Guilford County Metro 911. I can share that information via your city council's email.
Thank you. And I do want to take a look at that. We know that there are hot spots in community, just like MLK and Florida Street, and we need to give the hot spots our attention. So if we
Right.
could take a look at those areas and at least maybe have that data before we go on the.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But thank you for putting that together and let me know when it is and hopefully that council.
Yeah, and that,
can attend.
the basis for that tour is based upon the conversations I've had with Woodley and some of the other neighborhoods in that area around that plasma center. It is
Yeah.
really problematic.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Mayor, I'll get Chief James and the police department to also look at, Mr. Peterson has suggested some data from 911, but I want to make sure that our police departments, the incidents that actually happened and the police reports that were taking place during those incidents, that they have a chance to look at it, dissect it, because sometimes the calls for service can be a little different than the actual incidents that happen. And that way the chief and his folks can better address some of the issues that are there and assist Councilwoman Hightower in those efforts too. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and because we really need to start having some honest conversation with some of these property owners, some of these shopping center property owners who are not being very responsible around some of these calls and concerns and things. So, yeah.
And,
pull
you know,
all that
there
data
was
we
a
can.
real active association that met at Stephanie's and, you know, they have not met in, you know, since
long
COVID.
time.
It's been a really long time.
Well, the Random Monroe Business Association has kind of disbanded, if you will. Ron Wilson passed away,
Right.
as you know, and the other gentleman is really, his sight is not well, so they don't meet now.
Right.
And that's something, you know, we maybe can help some of the interested businesses in the area.
Yeah, it would be
to
nice
pull
to
back
pull that
together.
group back
Mhm.
together.
Right. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Louis Pitts. Mr. Pitts?
Yes. Yes, good evening, council members. My name is Louis Pitts. I live in Greensboro. I'm a member of the Greensboro Justice Coalition. As we all know, it's election season and voters want to know your positions on important issues, especially important issues like whether you believe in open, transparent government or secret government. And what are your views on police accountability, including the hog-tying homicide of Marcus Smith? And yet, on June the 1st, you all held a closed secret city council meeting in which you discussed and shared apparently differing positions on whether or not to conduct an independent investigation into the conduct and culture of our police department, and you decided not to do so. And because of that meeting, you have you've kept secret your position. Our coalition knows that that session was illegally held secretly, and we have retained the most prominent law firm in the state on issues of open meeting law to represent our coalition. And our lawyer, Amanda Martin, has written the city attorney 2 letters making the argument as to how and why those meetings were illegally held in secret. I sent to each of you an email on July the 4th, and I enclosed in that email the second more important letter from our attorney, Amanda Martin. I said I was sending that because I did not trust the city attorney to give you that letter. Sure enough, immediately, Chuck Watt, city attorney, sent you an email and said, I have that email. He did not think it was important enough to tell you about the potential lawsuit. We, the voters, want to know. We want to know now, what was your positions stated in that meeting? We want you to admit it was an illegally closed meeting, and we ask that you
30 seconds.
immediately provide all of the documents that have been generated pursuant to and leading up to that meeting, as our lawyer has requested. And finally, no person withholding their positions is worthy of office, and settle the Marcus Smith lawsuit and stop wasting already $1 million on private lawyers to try to have the case thrown out. Please take positions tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. I believe that is all of our speakers. Madam Clerk, is there anybody left on Zoom who hasn't spoken as a speaker from the floor?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then that will close the speakers from the floor segment of our agenda, and we move on to the consent agenda.
Move the consent agenda.
At the request of staff, we are removing items 2, 3, and 4. So it'll be the consent agenda minus 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, mine is marked out, so.
So let's see. So that was moved by Mrs. Johnson and seconded by Ms. Thurm. I'm waiting for the voting to come up. But in the meantime, Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells? Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower? Yes. Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. Okay, we will now move on to the public hearing portion of our agenda. Item number 1 is a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed fiscal year 2021-22 economic development appropriations to nonprofit entities and to authorize a resolution designating appropriations. And this is something that we have taken up on previous agendas. We do not have anybody here to speak on that item. Can I have a motion for the?
So Madam Mayor, nobody came, nobody showed up to speak. I had a statement from Mr. Lester who wanted me to give that statement at the last council meeting. But because he was unable to make it. So if I could just give that now. All right, thank you. The investment from the city is not alone. Partners throughout the region are joining our call. Just a few days ago, the Department of Treasury announced $565,000 to support COVID recovery to Piedmont Business Capital. The investment of $600,000 total $1.4 million in lending and operational capacity awarded to PBC in the last 4 weeks. While my leaving is bittersweet, let my departure signal how strong our organization is, that I could leave and that we are just at the beginning. Thank you for the opportunity to serve and build this foundation alongside each of you and so many others. And that was sent by Wilson Lester of Piedmont Business Capital.
Mr. Lester really has done a tremendous job with Piedmont Business Capital. And I'm sure that they'll continue with that strong leadership. And I know that Wilson is going to stay in the area and that, hopefully he'll be active with our ARP funding. And there might be additional funding available for PBC through ARP funds.
Yes, it is. We've had some of those conversations as well, but he's still staying on the board of PBC as well. And I just still gonna miss him. I pick up the phone and called him today because he just is so smart and he knows the answer and he knows how to get that answer. So he really has brought a lot of integrity to CDFI lending, and particularly here in the city of Greensboro. So he's an asset that we can't, lose.
So we need a motion and a second. Moved by Mrs. Thurm, seconded by Dr. Wells. I'm going to take a voice vote on that. Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson? You said yes. I'm a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower? And Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. We now move on to the general business portion of our agenda. We have one item, which is G1 Resolution Centric Brands, Inc. for a 1-year retention extension request. Moved by Mrs. Hoffman and seconded by Dr. Wells.
May I ask what exactly are we
Sure.
doing here, please?
Go ahead.
May I ask what are we doing with this?
Oh,
item?
it is an extension, really due to COVID. They had, with the economic incentives that they were given, they had a certain amount of employees that they had to hire and retain. And because of COVID, we know what the challenges are. So they have asked for a 1-year extension to help hit those employment numbers. Did I explain that well enough?
You did
You
good.
did a great job.
Thank you.
You're done good.
Yes. Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second on that. Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells? Mrs. Johnson?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm?
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower? And Mr. Outling?
Yes.
And that passes 8-0. That is the end of our regular agenda. Do we have any boards and commissions, Mrs. Hoffman? Dr. Wells?
I
Boards
have
and
an announcement.
Just
to
boards
make.
and commissions?
No.
I have none.
No.
Ms. Thurm? Mrs. Hightower?
Yes, I do have one. And Madam Mayor, are you going to appoint who we talked about for War Memorial?
I haven't talked to him yet.
I did.
You did?
Uh,
Okay, so he said yes?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I do need to reappoint April Parker to the library board.
Second.
So what I will say to that is she's been, I think she's been a certain asset. Bridget loves her. Unfortunately, she is no longer living in District 1, but I'm willing to accept her as the representative for District 1 because I know where her heart is at. She just decided she moved downtown, so.
She's done a great job.
But she's done a real phenomenal job. So.
So we do have a motion and a second on that. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? And that passes 8-0.
Thank
And then on the War Memorial Commission, DeCarlos Kynes has served for many years, and her terms are up and she is looking for a replacement. And I'd like Justin Washington to
Second.
take that place.
Second.
He does a great job, and so I do have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 8-0. Comments,
I had
Mrs.
one,
Johnson?
I had one. Yes, the Attitude of Gratitude is a nonprofit organization, and what they've been doing for years is providing Title I elementary schools with materials for the children so they'll have a good educational experience. They've collected over $40,000, and they have served Vandalia Elementary, Rankin Elementary, Hampton Elementary, Washington Montessori, Faust Elementary, Blueford Elementary, Wiley, Hope Academy, and the Lifespan in Burlington. I just wanted to say, if anybody wants to contribute paper, pencils, crayon, things that children need to have a successful educational experience in elementary school, you can drop them off at 1107 Perry Street. The leader of the Attitude of Gratitude, who is doing this, is Katina Amani, and it's a 501(c)(3). And I have been at many of these, and I think the mayor and
I think
Mary
many of
Kay
us.
Abuzawader and
Sharon.
Sharon and Goldie have been at a lot of these. And they actually give out wonderful book bags just filled with things. And they're going to even try to include personal item products in some of the ones to come. So I wanted to thank them for what they have done and what they're going to continue to do. They're getting ready to do several now. So if you want to drop off items or a check so that they can buy items, that would be greatly appreciated. 1107 Perry Street, that's right there near the Coliseum.
I want to thank you for bringing that up because, I think that we need to make sure that our children, our students are prepared to go back to school. We know how difficult last year was, and it would be nice for them to have some normalcy where they have backpacks and the supplies they need to hit the ground running. And, if they get other personal needs taken care of,
Yeah.
that's great. But, however we can support people who are doing backpack drives, I think that is wonderful. And the Amati Way has been doing that for years. And Katina really has an impact on the community along with others as well. But we do need to make sure that our students are starting with a firm foundation. They've had a lot of challenges since March of 2020. So whatever we can do.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, I Am Queen is also gonna do a
Yes.
backpack August 7th. I don't have the exact time.
Who,
At
Sharon?
Windsor Center.
I Am a Queen.
I am a
Queen.
queen.
Alana Allen.
And her goal is to give 700 book bags. And she's been doing it too for the last few years.
Do
but I
they,
think, yeah.
you have an address for?
It's gonna be at Windsor Center. She's gonna do it out of Windsor Center. That's on that Saturday, the 7th. I don't
And-
have the exact time, I think, but.
I assume we're going to do Operation Pass again, like we always have, which is the city and GPD's backpack drive. And, there are usually a couple thousand that are given out then. It's really amazing the number of people who turn up at all these events and really need assistance. So I think we need to highlight places like I Am a Queen, the Amati Way, Operation Pass, and who our community partners are with that.
And I'm gonna tell you, a few years ago, my mother came to my office and her daughter had gone to get one of the backpacks and supplies, and they had given out, and the child was just boo on the ground. I mean, I went out and bought her one, but that means a lot to these young people because everybody else has them. And it just means a lot to them. So they appreciate it. So do all you can to make any contributions you can to these, I Am a Queen and to Attitude of Gratitude, the Amani Way.
Yeah. And there will be other opportunities for us. It would be good maybe if we can keep a running list and maybe post that where if people want to give directly that they can.
Yeah.
Ms. Buswaiter, do you have any comments?
Just a few. Just wanted to say that I know that July 3rd downtown festivities were a hit and a success after not having been able to do things, little festivals downtown. It was a great event. I saw a lot of staff there and some council members. So just want to commend DGI for pulling that together, and I thought it was great. Did want to give my condolences to the family of Melanie Rodenbow. I served with her on the Faith Action International for 6 years, and I learned a lot from that lady. She was a great advocate for others, and her heart was just always in the right place. But when Melanie spoke, you listened. So it was, went to the funeral and just want to wrap her family in love and prayers because she was a great lady and she did a lot for this community. Last thing I'll talk about is I'm sure many of us are certainly worried about all of the shootings and the violence going on. I was able to attend because we've been in the convenience store business, the vigil for the lady who was killed on Battleground Avenue. Mayor Vaughn and I and several other council members have been to other vigils, Sharon, throughout the city. Mothers Standing Against Gun Violence. Some of us won't go and walk with them every week, but out of all of this, all of these families and all of the people who have been involved and been the victims and their families of these shootings have given nothing but praise for what our police department is trying to do. So I kind of wanted to say that because I hear a lot of the police aren't doing anything to prevent crime. Well, yes, they are. They're doing quite a bit, going out in the community, building relationships, all of those things. It is really hard to predict when a random shooting might happen. There's no way for an officer to be standing there. Someone actually said I was very negative the other day when I said something similar to that, but it's true. The police department cannot be standing on every corner. We don't want that anyway. So, you know, it's where, you know, I personally have become an advocate, and I know the chief has too, and I'm on the Crime Stoppers board. I am going to preach about Crime Stoppers forever and ever, because this is the way for community members to report things totally anonymously. And I thank my council members. I know that the chief and I lobbied for extra funds for Crime Stoppers, so that as soon as that comes forth, we're going to be rolling out a massive announcement about it with the media and everything. I hope you'll come along. But we've got to make sure that people in the community know that it is truly, truly anonymous. Please go to their Facebook page. Please go to the website. It shows you everything, how it's done, how the rewards are paid out, how that has remained anonymous for over 40 years. There has not been one tipster who has been identified in 40 years. So anyway, I beg the community, please call Crime Stoppers when you see unusual activity, when you see what you think may be drug activity, gun activity, all of those things. So hopefully, if we can all come together, we can help reduce some of this crime. We know it's all over the nation, but you know, we can take Greensboro and do what we can do in Greensboro, and it's going to take everyone. So I just kind of had to say that, because after going to that last vigil, I was pretty upset. This is just not the Greensboro I know, and it's happening all over.
Mary Kay, could I ask our attorney a question? Do we, as council people, have the authority to do ordinances to require metal detectors in certain businesses, or certain businesses like clubs and bars? And can we or can we not?
It's kind of an open question. I think there's certainly situations where you could. I'd have to kind of think about the specific situation you're talking about.
Okay, would you get back with me on that,
Sure.
please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Kay, can I ask you, part of the Crime Stoppers, where is the Gun Stopper program? Because the Gun Stoppers, I mean, guns are just, everybody's got one nowadays. We got shootouts on the exits and shootouts downtown. Everybody wants to solve their problem with a gun.
And that's the
And
problem.
that
Yeah.
I just.
Gun Stoppers is included in that.
Is that
Sorry. Yeah. It's part of, yes, and Gun Stoppers. And I know that I just saw the statistic the other day that the police department has actually gotten over 1,200 guns, and I'm not sure the time period, but it's
I think it's this year.
this year,
Which is way.
up till now.
Yeah. I
And
was-
Gun Stoppers, we've been paying out funds for the people that have been, letting us know that there are illegal guns in certain places.
Now,
So
can we turn those, we?
the
I
tips,
I don't
yeah.
have one.
The
but-
tips all go to the same
can
place,
they-
but
okay.
it's considered a Gun Stoppers tip or a Crime Stoppers tip. And sometimes it's both. So the reward monies can be even more. So just want to put that out there. I just really think it's important at a time like this. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you.
So our next two work sessions are scheduled to talk about public safety. I know Thursday, we have a work session at 2, which will be via Zoom. And we'll be talking about the RTI report and other issues. I would also like to see if we can invite the district attorney at a work session and maybe the supervisor of judges, because, one thing that we have seen is the number of guns. And I'm not talking about new gun legislation, but what can we do to make sure that our current gun laws that are on the books are really being treated as strongly as they can. We've talked about cash bail reform, but that is for kind of low level, writing a bad check, something like that. It shouldn't be about somebody who goes out and commits a crime with a gun, who is a crime against another person. And I would like us to have a conversation with the DA and the judges on what they look for when it comes to bail. Because the young man who shot the woman at the Speedway had been arrested before on gun charges. And I would like to have that broader discussion, because it isn't all about the police.
No.
GPD does a great job. I'm not sure what, I call it the solve rate. I'm not sure what it is right now, but I know it's above the national average. They can bring people to the courthouse. It's up to the DAs and the judges to take it from there. So I would like to just have a broader conversation that includes them as well, because I think it's really important with the proliferation of guns that we make sure that when they're used in a crime, that they are held as responsible as we can do it.
Yeah, I would agree. So, and we also talk about at that work session, I think I mentioned to you around how we make sure those directives that are already in place can't change just willy-nilly. If we can't create an ordinance around it, how we can ensure that the policies we do have in place, the changes that have been made,
sure,
can stay in effect as well.
Yes.
In addition to
right,
including those people, because they are important.
Right.
But they need to know that we have made some efforts to change certain things that, policies and procedures.
Sure.
Police policies, so.
I also want to say that we are about 5 weeks away from the Folk Festival, which is really hard to believe, which means we're probably about 3.5 weeks away or less from the Wyndham, which is another huge event. The PGA will be allowing spectators this year, about 15,000 per day. But the Folk Festival this year falls on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of September. And this will be the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And the fire department will be doing their annual stair climb. I don't believe we did it last year because of COVID. So this is an important year. And I've asked staff and the people who are running the Folk Festival, Amy and her staff, if we could do something special on 9/11, maybe down at the south end of Elm Street, and spoken with Chris and Josh and a few others on how we can activate a space, especially it's right near the sculpture that Jim Gallucci did, which is a 9/11 sculpture and holds some of the steel that was in the World Trade Centers. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to appreciate all of our first responders, police, fire, EMS, and 911. So I believe that for that Saturday, we're going to look at expanding the footprint a little bit and bringing some entertainment downtown where we can recognize the day for the day that it is. It's hard to believe that 20 years, there are a lot of children who have been born in the last 20 years who are living in a post 9/11 universe. And even my daughter, who is 20, was 9 months old when this happened and really has no idea of the before and after. So I think because of the significance of that date falling in the Folk Festival, that we need to recognize it by doing something special. So put the Folk Festival on your calendar, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and then the Wyndham is coming up shortly as well. And Pride is on the 16th, yes. And so that is going to be a big, the 17th, it's that Sunday. It's a Sunday. Pride. September. Okay, so that Sunday in September will be Pride as well. We've got a lot of big events coming up. And we want to do them safely. I hope that everybody is getting vaccinated. We have been vaccinated up here. We see that the variant is rising. We want to make sure that we continue to operate in a safe manner. I know that social distancing will be hard at those events. So, people who are comfortable wearing a mask, I think we should encourage that. It shouldn't be scoffed upon when somebody is wearing a mask, and I hope that people will get vaccinated because that is strong against the variants as well.
Especially young people with this Delta strain that they have. It's really negatively affecting young people.
Yes. So council comments, Mrs. Hightower?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Two things that I want to talk about. Quickly, I want to address what the young man spoke about earlier tonight on the STEP plan. And I do support the STEP plan because of the things not only he talked about, but others I've talked to. And I talked to an employee that is in one of our departments, and she did complete the survey and she wanted a STEP plan because of some of the inequities that she's seen, but some of the things that he spoke to tonight even. And so I just also want to applaud field ops and some of the guys in the field for doing the work they do. It is some of the nastiest work ever. And we've got them out there and they should be earning a good wage. And so I have to say that I support the STEP plan because I think a lot of times they have been treated, I think, very unfairly. However, we expect them to pick up garbage. Not only that, folks' old nasty furniture, and if you don't believe it, look at what happened when COVID came and we stopped doing yard waste. We got some nasty emails from privileged folk who said, I'm home now, pick up my yard waste. And so these folk go out day after day and, pick up old sofas, mattresses with bed bugs in them. And so we need to be very cognizant of that. And that's why I say to you all, why, yes, police and fire is public safety, the focal public safety too. And I don't know where we are with looking at their pay, but I would like to go back and look at it and see if in fact, if their pay is lower than the 4 other cities in North Carolina, we need to start, once again, there needs to be equity. And so I hope we will do the employee STEP plan because I think we need to hear what they are saying to us as well. And they've been asking for this for quite a while. The second thing is I want to address, there was an executive order, and I want to address it, that was signed at the beginning of the year by the newly installed president, Executive Order 13985. It is advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. And I would like for us to support this. I'd like to read it into the record, maybe make an official support of it because it's a precursor to how we can also disperse federal funds that come through the American Rescue Plan. And in the American Rescue Plan, if you know, there is a statute piece that says that it is to support minority-led nonprofits as well as minority-led small businesses. And because of this executive order, that is a basis for support. And so what I want to read this snippet of a paragraph, and I sent it to my council members today. I hope you all will take a moment to read. It's been out there since January 20th of 2021. But it says, by the power vested in me as president of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered, Section 1, policy. Equal opportunity is the bedrock of American democracy, and our diversity is one of the country's strength. But for many, the American dream remains out of reach. entrenched disparities in our laws and public policies and in the public and private institutions have often denied that equal opportunity to individuals and communities. While a historic moment has highlighted the unbearable human costs of systemic racism, our nation deserves an ambitious whole government equity agenda that matches the scale of opportunities and challenges that we face. It is therefore the policy of my administration, speaking of the president, through the federal government, should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color. Executive departments and agencies must recognize and work to address in their policies and programs that serve as barriers to equal opportunity. Each agency must assess whether and to what extent its programs and policies perpetuate systemic barriers to opportunities and benefits for people of color. And I think it aligns with what we want our city to represent, fairness for all. That's why we have a inclusion office now. As you know, I've been talking MWBE so long, I guess the letters are just about faded off the page. They tired of me talking about it, but I just think that this executive order really upholds the standards by which we must operate. And so tonight, I'm just wanting to have it as part of an official council record that Greensboro is one who believes in the principles, and that the President of the United States even feels that there have been underserved communities that need to have a leg up. The rescue plan can do that in some sense of the word, and I hope we will do that. I think, Mayor, is what you talked about doing with the $1 million, and I said, let's do 5 million.
Yeah.
Because I think 5 million, we really got to say to the community how we invest. We got to invest in an attitude of gratitude, and I am queen, and even the young lady that stood here tonight. And I think this is one of the ways that we must uphold and do that, so.
So Sharon, I didn't get that email, but I know that you didn't do it on purpose, but so Mary Kay just forwarded it to me.
You want?
So, so I think we need.
I was sending it out.
Yeah, I think we need to take a look at it, and, since, that could serve as a guiding principle on how to distribute the ARP funds, but we need to take a look at it, and we can,
right.
And certainly it should be on the ARP page on our website. I think, I know that we still have the simulator up. Maybe if we can do a link to this as well. Dr. Wells?
Well, when we were talking about events, we can't forget the National Night Out's coming up too.
That's right.
And I want to bring to your attention 2 other events that are coming on Saturday. It's called Christmas in July 2021, sponsored by CRTC Incorporated. It's a group that works with offenders that come back to the community, and they help them to get acclimated. That's going to be at JC Park and shelter number 7 on Saturday from 10 to 2. And I think our mayor is going to be bringing greetings at that event. So you're supposed to sign or let them know you're coming.
Yeah, I think I'll be there around noon.
At noon, yes. So you can text to 336-383-7374, 336-383-7374. And they're using you to wear your mask if you have not been vaccinated. The other event, we're trying to pull folks together, and the summer is here, and the Racial Equity Institute is sponsoring movies for the next 6 weeks, every other week. The first movies will be on July 16th from 7:30 to 9:30. One will be over at the YMCA in High Point, and the other is at Peeler Recreation Center. So let's bring your chairs, they'll have food, and they will be watching 13th. So this is sponsored by the Racial Equity Institute. That's Dina's group. So that's a free night out, and inviting folks. And I really am impressed with the Garl Street community. I went to their meeting last night. They're reorganizing, and Councilwoman Abuzawader was on Zoom, but they are taking over their community again. And I'm a strong proponent for neighborhoods. Strong neighborhoods make better cities. And so they are reorganizing and getting together. So I encourage all the other neighborhood groups. Some of them have gotten really slack because of the pandemic, and some have just gotten slack and stopped having meetings. But I encourage you to get your community back together and your community watches back together, because that will help us. And I'd like for Mary Kay went to honor Brother Earl Washington on Saturday. I couldn't be there, and she filled in for me, but Earl Washington is a mentor and advisor and counselor in our community. And we honored that was at the African American Muslim community. It was at the Muhammad Center on Bessemer. And Mary Kay was there and spoke for us. So I appreciate it.
It was a really nice event, Dr. Wells. They missed you. They spoke about how much they know and love you.
Yeah, I would have been there if I had to go to a wedding. Now, I would like to see what can be done about renaming this chamber to honor Katie Dorsett. She passed away about a year ago now, and she served in this council, and she served over in the county commissioner. Then she went on to serve in the North Carolina Senate. And I would really like for you to look into how we could just change the name just of this chamber in her honor.
Does it have a name?
I'll just say that, and I'll look to the city attorney. I believe that's as simple as a motion. If you all are prepared to discuss, if you want to consider it, we can bring it back more formally. But if there's support for it, we can move forward.
It doesn't have a name now.
It does not have a name now.
Council chambers.
Council chambers.
That's correct. That's correct.
So are you gonna make a motion, Goldie? Second.
So, Mrs. Hoffman? Yes. Yes. Dr. Wells?
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mrs. Abuzawader?
Yes.
Mrs. Thurm? Yes. Mrs. Hightower? And Mr. Outling?
Yes.
That passes 8-0. I believe that we had talked about it, or maybe I had talked about it with David, I'm not sure which, and that we wanted to do something to really remember her, whether, it's a picture or something, but a little bit more than a name change. So that, naming the chambers meant something. So maybe you can come back with what you vision that being.
I would agree. I'll bring back something for you all to review, but I'm thinking of something that would not only designate the name, but also bear the likeness and really demonstrate the honoring of the chambers. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Outling, any comments?
No further comments this evening. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, did I skip you for commission appointments?
I don't have any appointments this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to District 4. Mrs. Hoffman?
Just a couple of things. You mentioned a folk festival, of course, but we've added an element to the folk festival this year, and that was we created an opportunity for groups throughout the state to submit their desire to appear as during the festival. And so the group, we got all of these submissions. They were narrowed down, and there are 4 groups, one of them from Greensboro, one from Durham. And the general public can go online and watch their video and vote.
Oh, wow.
So it is the citizens of the city who are going to decide which of those 4 groups will make an appearance at the folk festival. And there's some, I think they get a recording, an opportunity, and some other things that go with that. So we've added that as a
That's great.
as another element to the folk festival. The Lorena Julian Tango Ensemble.
Wow.
I've not heard them,
No.
so I'm looking forward to
Well,
doing
we'll go
that.
watch that.
And it's the group from Durham is Dream Root, and then there's Grand Shores from Pittsboro and Jazz Expression Feet from Youngsville. So at any rate, I'm glad that'll be a great weekend. The last week or 10 days as I've been out at various things, it's like we've had this reawakening in the city, and it's wonderful to see. And I think people are ready for that. But again, I think as the mayor mentioned, I mean, we are still living with COVID.
Yes.
And its variants at this point. So, I think there's still some caution, and continue to encourage those people who have not been vaccinated at this point to do so. I met a friend after the Marty Sheets event at the Coliseum last Friday. I met a friend at Bourbon Bowl, and it was really hopping. So it made me glad that we as a city participated in that location and that business. And it's so nice not to see used appliances sitting on the sidewalk in front of that space now. And it was truly generational and multicultural in terms of the people who were there Friday night. So
great. Thank you. Mrs. Thurm?
Just a couple things. Number one, I'd like to thank GDOT Hannah Cockburn and also Assistant City Manager Kim Sowell for attending a meeting with some residents on Aloe and Hibbler Streets that expressed some concerns, and both departments just jumped right on it and got new signage. And Assistant City Manager Sowell has met with one of the problem companies that were out there, and it's really making a difference, and our residents really appreciated everybody jumping right on their concerns. So thank you both for attending that meeting with me. Also related to the Department of Transportation, I'd like us to revisit the whole concept of speed humps, speed bumps, whatever. I know since I've gotten on City Council, I've heard Greensboro Department of Transportation doesn't do speed humps. Well, maybe we need to reconsider that and look at the background of that. High Point just started it. I know one of the stories I've heard is that, our first responders don't like speed humps. Well, I'm guessing they don't in High Point either. But there are options from what I've seen based on like the width of the speed hump from left to right, so that you narrow it down so that it does not impact EMS vehicles and fire engines and that kind of thing. But I just would like us to revisit it. There's a huge demand in our community. It's a huge issue. We talk all the time about Vision Zero and reducing vehicular deaths. And I think that reducing speeding in some of these key areas and neighborhoods, on residential streets, it's a huge issue. So I'd like to revisit that as a council, please.
Maybe have a work session. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Because I sent Hannah
A work
the
session.
same from High Point. I sent Hannah the same where High Point installed speed humps. So she's supposed to have been looking into that. So maybe.
I know she was having a meeting with, she told me she was having a meeting with her equivalent position in High Point. But I'd like to get something on the calendar so that we can follow up with this, because, you know, residents are screaming for it. It's needed. And I'd like to see what the options are. Thank you.
You brought something to mind. We had a great fun fourth on the 3rd, and I got a lot of really positive feedback on it. The one little blemish was that there were cars that were towed. As we are gearing up for the festival, I think we're going into festival season. Can we make sure that the private lot owners and whoever else clearly mark that during the weekend, during these festivals, that it's no parking or you're going to get towed? I know that we slack off on enforcement over the weekend and after hours, but that seemed to be the only thing that left a bad taste in people's mouths. And maybe we can talk to some of these towing companies, because I understand that a number of vehicles were towed. They weren't towed by us. They weren't asked to be towed by us. But I think that people assume that when there is an empty lot and it is a weekend and there's a festival, that they can park there. So I think we need to be very specific in our signage, especially moving up to the events that we have.
Well, I know there's a problematic towing company.
Yeah.
Very problematic. I don't know if they're gonna listen to anybody.
I got you.
Yes, you do.
Anyway.
Yes, you do.
So I think that is the end of the meeting. Oh, Mr. City Manager, do you have any?
Yeah, thanks. I did have one thing, and certainly appreciate you all continuing to support, but we had an announcement today of an emerging workforce career center that'll be located in downtown on behalf of Guilford Works. The importance of that is continuing to prioritize youth employment and beyond youth employment, certainly attaching them to careers. So this center will serve as a conduit for support in careers and youth employment. And it's also located in the same building as our Parks and Recreation administration, who has youth services in the same building. So there's some synergy there that we'll capitalize on. I appreciate you all supporting that initiative this morning. We'll keep you updated as we continue to develop that office. Our goal is to get that open here at the end of summer and be prepared for the coming year. As the mayor mentioned, work sessions will include public safety over the next 2 meetings. I just want to reiterate, there is no greater issue to us in our office than public safety at this moment. Community issues require community solutions, so we're continuing to ask the community to participate with us in working on those solutions. And you all have spoken to that. So I just wanted to mention those couple of things, because I think it's important for the public to hear from us as well, and the understanding that these are priorities to our office, and we will continue to let our actions speak for us. Thank you.
City Attorney?
I don't have anything for tonight.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Mrs. Johnson, seconded by Dr. Wells. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned.